Hello guys, nice to see you today at our new lesson. Today we will review different types of XPath selectors and we'll have a practice with writing these selectors together. Here is our agenda for today. We will cover the following questions. Discuss what XPath selector is. Observe why we should use XPath selectors. Find out the difference between absolute and relative XPath. Review common XPath patterns. Apply XPath selectors in practice. Let's start from discussing of what XPath selector is. An XPath selector is used to navigate through elements and attributes in an HTML document. XPath uses path-like syntax to identify and navigate the nodes in an HTML document. XPath uses path expressions to select nodes or node sets in an HTML document. These path expressions looks very much like the path expressions you use with traditional computer file systems where each folder is placed inside another folder, etc. There are a few major advantages of using XPath selectors in comparison with other types of selectors present in Selenium, such as ID, name, partial link name, etc. The first advantage of XPath is that front-end developers can understand your code more. All the modern web applications use XPath as a part of creation of web application. This tool is responsible for creation of common styles for different web element representations such as color, size, position, etc. So, they use the same syntax that you in your automated code. And if there is a need from developers team to separate automated tests, they will not get lost in the code you wrote. The following advantage of XPath selectors is their scalability. You should not change the type of your selector even if the web element has completely changed its representation or some attribute value inside. You can just update the value of some attribute or change one attribute with another with the assistance of this powerful tool, and your automated test will still be green and produce constant feedback regarding the application quality. The final advantage of XPath selectors is the ability to go through XPath access. In comparison with CSS, another popular selector type, which allows only to refer the element or its descendants, XPath gives us a chance to refer to the ancestors, siblings, parents of the specific web element. This selector is very helpful if the HTML of your web application is quite tricky and complicated. So the general recommendation when writing web element selectors in Selenium is to use CSS everywhere where it is possible and apply XPath only in cases where CSS cannot help. In XPath you can find two different types of paths in its turn. The first one is the absolute path. It starts from HTML DOM root and looks like the following: /HTML /first node XPath /second node XPath etc. /your node XPath. This is the most primitive type of XPath selector in Selenium, and I do not recommend you to use it in your automated tests, because it is not resistant to changes in HTML. For example, if at least one XPath of element located in this chain is changed, your test will fail, and you will spend your time searching for the new selector almost each day. Nevertheless, let's switch to our browser to check how this selector works. I open Amazon.com page, right-click somewhere in the HTML and select Inspect option in the Open dropdown. Then I scroll the element section of our DevTools till its beginning and see that the document starts from HTML node. Then you see that the following node in the nodes hierarchy is head node. Let's open our XPath plugin and select head node with the help of absolute XPath. It will look like the following: /HTML/head. I hit on Enter key and see that the only one element is found. Let's switch back to DevTools and expand head node. We see that there are much more nodes hidden inside. Let's try to select all meta nodes among them. To do so, I add /meta part to my initial selector and hit on Enter key in XPath plugin. We see now that all the meta elements in the HTML are selected. The second XPath type is relative selector and is not oriented on the HTML DOM root. It looks like the following: two slashes and not XPath, and is much simpler than absolute XPath. That is the reason why I would strongly recommend you to use this type of XPath. It is more flexible to external changes in your application HTML, and is much more verbose in comparison with the absolute one. Let's switch to our Amazon.com and experiment with relative passes. Let's select hit node with its help. To do so, I should just write something like this: two slashes hit and hit on enter key. I see that only one element, hit, is found, and the selector looks much better than the absolute one. Let's try to find all meta nodes with the help of relative pass. To do so, I just clear crop as input and write the following: two slashes meta, and a hit on enter key. I see that the same nodes as for absolute pass are found. That means that the selector is correct. Please note that you can combine absolute and relative pass. For example, if you want to find all meta nodes and use not HTML DOM root but hit as a root for your search, you can write something like this: two slashes hit slash meta and hit on enter key. You see that the same meta nodes are found that in our previous example. I can highlight a few simple XPath patterns. They are the following. The first one is attribute value. The syntax of element with specific attribute value in XPath is very simple. You should represent the selector as a string which looks like the following: two slashes, node name, starting square bracket, add, attribute name, equals sign, single quote, attribute value, single quote, closing square bracket. You can see that it is not such a verbose as CSS, so it is better to use CSS selector in this case. But let's consider how it works on Amazon.com page. I switch to my browser and right-click on Search Input field. I see that the node name is input, and we have an ID attribute with two tab search text box value. So our selector will look like the following: slashes, input, opening square bracket, add, ID, equals, single quote, two tab search text box, single quote, closing square bracket. Let's hit on enter key to verify its validity. We can see that only one element is found. That means that our selector is correct. The following selector type is text value. The syntax of elements with specific text is not complicated in XPath. This type of XPath has the following pattern: two slashes, node name, opening square bracket, text, equals, single quote, value, single quote, closing square bracket. Let's switch to our browser and right-click on Registry button below Search Input field, then select Inspect option. We see that this button node name is A, while the text value is Registry. I suppose that the text value XPath for this element will look like the following: slashes, A, opening square bracket, text, equals, single quote, Registry, single quote, closing square bracket. Then I hit on enter key and see that the only one element that represents our registry button is found. The final type I would like to share with you today is contains. We should use this type of XPath selector when the entire attribute or text value is large, and we want to improve our selector's verbosity. It will look like the following: two slashes, node name, opening square bracket, contains, bracket, @, attribute name, comma, white space, single quote, attribute value, single quote, closing bracket, closing square bracket. If you want to find the element by attribute value part, or slashes, node name, opening square bracket, contains, opening bracket, text, comma, single quote, text value, single quote, closing bracket, closing square bracket. If you want to access a node by text value part. If we switch to our DevTools and try to locate registry button by text part, we should write, for example, the following: two slashes, A, opening square bracket, contains, opening bracket, text, comma, single quote, rec, single quote, closing bracket, closing square bracket. Then I verify that only one element is found by this selector. Let's try to locate our text input with the help of content selector. As you remember, the input ID value is to-tab search text box. I will use the following content selector to find this element. 2 slashes, input, opening square bracket, contains, opening bracket, @, ID, comma, single quote, tab search, single quote, closing bracket, closing square bracket. Then I verify that only one element is found and our selector is correct. There are a lot of modifications and combinations of XPath selectors we learned today together, but all of them could be found on the specific project. Also, XPath Access topic is not considered in this lesson. All the selectors for the separate course, so please wait a bit and our team will prepare a new course with much detailed selectors overview for you. And I still advise you to use as much simple XPath selectors as it's possible to improve their verbosity and increase your test resistance to external changes. Let's sum up what we did today. We learned the following. Discussed what XPath selector is, observed why XPath selectors are needed, verified difference between absolute and relative XPaths, reviewed common XPath patterns, applied XPath selectors in practice. That is everything what I got for you for today. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next lesson.